Alright guys, Clarice Lispector. No longer even fear, no longer even fright. Had I vomited my last human remnants, and I was no longer asking for help. The diurnal desert was before me, and now the oratorio was staring up again, but in another way. Now the oratorio was the deaf sound of the heat refracting off walls and ceilings in rounded vaults. The oratorio was made of the tremblings of sultriness. And my fear too was different now, not the fear of someone about to enter, but the much broader fear of someone who has already entered. So much broader, it was fear of my lack of fear, since it was with my rashness that I then looked at the roach, and I saw it was a creature without beauty for other species. And as I saw it, the little former fear returned for just an instant. I swear I'll do everything you want, but don't leave me in prison in the roach's room, because something enormous is going to happen to me. I don't want the other species, I just want people. But at my slight cringing, the oratorio just intensified, and so I kept still, no longer trying to make a movement to help myself. I'd already abandoned myself. I could nearly see there at the beginning of the path already traveled the body I'd cast off. But I was still sometimes calling for it, still calling myself. And it was because I could no longer hear my answer that I knew I'd already abandoned myself beyond my reach. Yes, the roach was a creature without beauty for other species. The mouth, if it had teeth, they would be big, square, and yellow teeth. How I hate the light of the sun that reveals everything, reveals even the possible. With the edge of my robe, I wiped my forehead without taking my gaze from the roach's eyes, and my own eyes also had the same lashes as well. But no one touches yours, unclean thing. Only another roach would want this roach. And me, who would want me today, who had already become as mute as I was, who like me was calling fear love, and want love, and need love, who like me knew that I had never changed my form since they had drawn me on the stone of a cave, and next to a man and a dog. From now on I could call anything by the name I invented. In the dry room I could, since any name would do, since none of them would. Within the dry sounds of the vault everything could be called anything, because anything would be transmuted in the same vibrating muteness. The roach's much greater nature made anything entering their name or person lose its false transcendence, so much so that I was seeing only in exactly the white vomit of its body. I was only seeing facts and things. I knew that I was in the irreducible, though I was unaware what the irreducible is. But I also knew that ignorance of the law of the irreducible was no excuse. I could no longer excuse myself by claiming I didn't know the law, since knowing oneself and knowing the world is the law that even unattainable cannot be infringed, and nobody can be excused by claiming not to know it. Worse, the roach and I were not faced with a law we had to obey. We ourselves were the unknown law that we obeyed. The renewedly original sin is this: I must fulfill my law of which I am unaware, and if I don't fulfill my ignorance, I shall be originally sinning against life. In the garden of paradise, who was the monster and who was not? Between the houses and apartments, and in the elevated spaces between the high buildings, in that hanging garden, who is and who is not? How long can I stand, not at least knowing what is looking at me? The raw roach is looking at me, and its law sees mine. I felt that I was going to know. Don't abandon me now. Don't let me make alone this already made decision. I still had the desire to take refuge in my own fragility, and in the sly yet true argument that my shoulders were a woman's, feeble and slender. Whenever I had needed to, I excused myself by arguing that I was a woman. But I was well aware that it's not just women who are afraid to see. Everyone fears seeing what is God. I was afraid of the face of God. I was afraid of my final nudity on the wall. Beauty, that new absence of beauty that had nothing to do with whatever I used to call beauty, horrified me. Give me your hand, because I no longer know what I'm saying. I think I made it all up. None of this existed. But if I made up what happened to me yesterday, who can guarantee that I didn't also invent my entire life prior to yesterday? Give me your hand. Anyway, peace.